This is the Mississippi State Correctional Institution, where you lose your freedom, where you do hard time. There is no escaping from here. There is no recreation here. There is no fun here. But all of that is about to change.
Life? What the hell you mean? Like, hell no, I ain't doing no life. I'm going back to myself. It's a mistrial.
I blame you for everything, Ray.
Hey, boss, he ain't working.
You gonna eat your cornbread.
You can't have my cornbread. I'm from New York City. It's gonna be consequences and repercussions.
I told you what my plan was. You gonna tell me what your plan is? What you working on?
One of y'all wanna help me drive my back?
We gotta get out of here.
You call this a map? Don't tell me you don't know where we're going.
This April, Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence are getting all there is. Out of life.
You gonna make me fall off this talking to your ass. Every time you start talking, I almost fall. Will you done?
Will you stop?
Just don't say nothing else to me.
You about to make me fall, Ray.
Just hold still and don't say nothing.
Oh, damn, one of my toes in the bottle, Ray.
The Mississippi State Prison has never been fun, but all of that is about to change.
Life? No! You mean like, hell no, I ain't doing no life. Hey, boss, he ain't working.
I blame you for everything.
You gonna eat your cornbread.
You can't have my cornbread, because I'm from New York City.
This April, they're getting all there is.
I see you in New York City!
Out of life. Rated R.
Starts Friday, April 16th at theaters everywhere.
Eddie Murphy
Hey, boss, he ain't working.
and Martin Lawrence
I don't like it when my food touches this.
are making friends,
Your hands nice and supple, like a lady.
making trouble,
You try to take my cornbread, there's gonna be consequences and repercussions.
and breaking all the rules.
That's the warden's daughter.
Show me that grand boy.
Life. Rated R. Starts Friday, April 16th at theaters everywhere.
We didn't kill nobody. What's the worst that can happen?
Life?
Universal Pictures and Imagine Entertainment present Eddie Murphy
I'm from New York City. You mess around with me, it's gonna be consequences and repercussions.
Martin Lawrence.
Your hands nice and supple, like a lady. I try to moisturize regularly.
From the producer of The Nutty Professor.
That's the warden's daughter.
You know who the daddy of the baby is?
Life. Rated R. Starts Friday, April 16th at theaters everywhere. They came.
I don't like it when my food touches this.
They saw.
One of y'all wanna help me drive my back?
We gotta get out of here.
They wanted out.
You call this a map? Don't tell me you don't know where we're going.
From the producer of The Nutty Professor and Liar Liar.
Can't be that hard to fly a plane. Lots of people do it.
They're called pilots, Ray.
Eddie Murphy, Martin Lawrence are together for
See you in New York City!
Life. Rated R. Starts Friday, April 16th at theaters everywhere.
What's the worst that can happen to us, Ray?
Life!
They're not ready for prison.
One of y'all wanna help me drive my back?
And prisons
I see you in New York City!
not ready for them. From the producer of The Nutty Professor,
That's the warden's daughter.
Show me that grand boy.
Eddie Murphy,
You know who the daddy of the baby is?
Martin Lawrence. Life. Rated R. Starts Friday, April 16th at theaters everywhere.
Hey, my man, how you doing?
Oh, no, not tonight, Ray. Spanky's not happy with you.
Oh, is Spanky here?
Do yourself a favor and find another place where they let you in the front door.
Hey, what about that time I bought your girl them alligator shoes, man, huh? What's the problem? Did I come through for you?
Yeah.
Bitch was wearing pigskin when I met her. I got out the swine, she wearing alligator, let me in, her alligator out. There you go, that's how it goes, brother, that's how it goes. Thank you, man, I appreciate it.
There's combustion between a comedy called Life starring Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence. You don't have to say too much more. You can really just say their first names and it's a comedy, and people are their imagination's gonna go to a place that's true.
I thought the idea of doing a movie about two guys that went to prison for life, you know, a big prison escape, epic film would be like a good, entertaining movie to do.
We'd done Boomerang, and then then Nutty, and Nutty, you know, kind of worked in every area for us. And he had this idea. It was just a simple word, life, and he sort of pitched it out to me.
It was important to Eddie, Martin, and myself, and Brian that we really, this film wasn't just a comedy, that was poignant, and it said a lot about, you know, it wasn't preachy or anything like that, but it just had a good story. I mean, the problem with most comedies these days is that there's no stories behind them. You know, they're just kind of a bunch of funny skits put together. You know, I wanted this to be a good story.
Ted Demme was kind of perfect for this movie because he's an actor's director. And this movie needs that because it's a movie because Eddie is so creative and so brilliant. And because Martin is really so talented. I think that, and they're comedians, they need to have a director that's going to let them breathe and let them try things. And is just going to essentially provide the professional architecture, the creative architecture from which they should work, and then let them sort of play around, and then direct it keep it within the architecture.
The one thing about this story that I thought was pretty different was, what would happen if, ostensibly, you, at a very young age, were frozen for a really long time, for like 60 years, and you came out of that period today, in the 90s. How different you'd view life. And then taking it a step further, like, what would happen if you got put somewhere behind bars or any type of captivity, and your life didn't change for 60 years at all, but everything around you did? I thought that was kind of unique place to start, and that's kind of where we started with Life.
This movie, and I hate using this, it sounds so cliche, but it really is a movie about the triumph of the human spirit, you know, how these two people can't be beat by this situation, you know, and how fate brought them together, you know, and reluctantly they wind up being the most important people in each other's life, you know. It's like a real offbeat buddy movie, you know, because it's fate brought them together, you know.
Don't I know you? I don't think so. Yes, I do. I know you. What is your name? Claude Banks. Claude Banks! Claude Banks! Hey, Miss Me! Ray Gibson! We went to high school together. How you doing, man?
You went to Monroe?
Monroe, yes, definitely. How you doing, man? Look at you looking all sharp. Make me feel good to see colored folks doing good for themselves.
Yeah, well, I went to Jefferson, so you must have a different Claude Banks in mind. Excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. My mistake.
I've always been, for a very long time, an enormously big Eddie Murphy fan. I think he's probably one of the most talented guys of my generation. We're not too far off in age. He's much older than I am. And yeah, I think that he's probably one of the funniest guys that's ever walked. And I'm a huge fan of Martin's. I've actually been familiar with Martin for a really long time. And I think that they're both amazing. And I thought, boy, it'd be really great to put them together and give them roles that were different than the ones they played in the past. It was very important to Martin and Eddie that they expanded themselves as actors in this movie.
When I heard about Life, well, the first attraction was to who it was starring, which was Eddie Murphy, and be able to work, alongside of him was, that's a dream come true, to be in that position.
Throughout the course of development, there were different actors that were being considered for roles and stuff. And Martin, it always went back to Martin. Martin was the first choice, and then he went off and he was doing other films, and then other people got popular, and then, it always came back to Martin. The original character of Claude was written for Martin.
Claude realizes somewhere, by him being this uptight guy, I think he realizes if you're put in a situation that's beyond your control, you have to try to make the best of it, you know, and you can sit and you can complain and do all those things, but, you know, the key to life is called survival.
I think what people like about Martin is they like to see Martin fight, you know, and what's cool about it is Martin doesn't always win, but audiences like to see him fight and go for his. And that's what this movie is about. It's about not giving up and fighting for yours. And he's the perfect person for it, you know.
The fact that, you know, here's two guys that you know, that are hit with life for something that they didn't do, you know, and how they have through a long period of time through their life, they have to, you know, try to overcome the odds that are against them.
My character's supposed to be a street guy, so that was, you know, the pairing, you know, two guys who would be have different types of personalities, you know. So he's like the straight. It's almost like, you know, the odd couple.
You know what, Ray? You're responsible for this whole situation. Yeah, I blame you for everything, Ray. Okay? If it wasn't for you, man, I'd be home right now about to have a hot meal.
If it wasn't for me, you're black. You're floating up on a beach of Coney Island right now. You forgot all that with shiny on my fingers and thumbs for adding, and you remember that?
Ray,
I saved your life.
They think we killed somebody, Ray. This is blood, okay?
Listen, just shut your ass down. Let me work some shit out with this.
I got a job that starts Monday,
You
Ray.
gonna be late? I got to work this shit out with this old family.
We sat down with the director and the writers, you know, and you know, developed the characters and everything, you know. But a lot of it, you know, was happening while we were on set, you know what I mean. And as we sat there and we talked about the scene and the script, and you know, Eddie's a master at improvisation and all that stuff, and you know, we just we were able to define things, you know, sometime right there on set.
Martin's very, you know, vibrant, full of life person as a human being, so I had to really, together we both said, look, let's bring this in and let's really define who Claude is and make him a little more uptight to play against Eddie's outwardness. And we always kind of use Felix and Oscar as a little correlation, because I didn't want them to be both the same guy. I wanted them to be able to play off each other, and Claude's really the straight man in this movie, and Martin's never really played that. It's really exciting to see him do that, and do it so well.
Even though we're comedians, you know, the idea about two guys going to jail, you know, unjustly for their life, that's not a funny story, you know, so it's bittersweet kind of thing that goes on, because funny things are happening, but it's really not funny, you know.
There's a lot of humorous things that happen along the way, but it's a lot of serious things, and, you know, the camaraderie that these guys have to have with each other in order to survive.
Together as a comedy team, they're actually phenomenal, because they're not fighting for laughs, they're not fighting for the line, they're not fighting for the attention. They both are really respectful of each other, respectful of the movie and the parts, and they're really trying to do different things.
The movie has more poignancy than in the usual Eddie Murphy or Martin Lawrence movie. It's a more developed story than in the usual movie, you know. It's a richer production, and not as predictable, you know.
Eddie plays, you get to see a brashness about him. Now, you've seen this brashness in, you know, some of the modern movies that he's made that have had great success. But the way it's reconstructed into this character that he plays now is really fun.
Eddie's kind of, you know, used to being a very kind of slick, handsome, you know, hero that has all the problems, you know, solved right at the end of his fingertips and all that kind of stuff, and he always saves the day, and it works for him. But he didn't want to do that in this movie. He wanted to have a flawed character that was kind of a hustler, but a real hustler that was kind of not a loser, but just really was real. He got himself in trouble. The more he tried to hustle, the more he gets in trouble.
You know, I usually play these fast-talking guys that can, you know, get themselves out of any situation in films, you know. And this guy, you know, he's fast-talking, and things just keep getting worse and worse and worse, you know. I never played anybody who would run instead of fight, you know. And it's kind of fun to play him.
We didn't kill nobody, Ray.
Hey, Claude, what about the truckload of booze, man?
Man, that's Spanky's booze. You know what? Tomorrow I'm gonna tell that judge. Judge, we didn't murder nobody. That was Spanky's booze. What's the worst that can happen to us, Ray? Huh? Life.
do you mean? Like, hell no, I ain't doing no that. I'm going back to myself.
There's so many different elements to this movie, which is another reason I was really attracted to it, that really forced me to be very prepared, probably more prepared than I've ever been to go into a movie, because we had to do extensive makeup tests with Eddie and Martin, because they do age 60 years in the movie in increments.
I don't think we've ever done anything that is characters as fleshed out and as developed as these. I don't think we've ever done anything as far as acting goes, you know, done a character that goes through this change like this. You know, we take these guys from age 25 to 90. You know, I've played wild, crazy characters before, but I've never done somebody that you have to gradually and see him age and believe all that stuff. And Martin's never done anything like that either. I used to do characters on the Martin show, but to do it at this level in movie, it's real interesting. You know, it's a lot of work. You know, it takes a lot of patience and time to get into all of that, and to see myself at 90 and, you know, alongside Eddie, you know, that's very fun. It's an honor and it's very challenging, you know, because you know he's going to be the best that he can be, you know, and he is, you know, and you know, you have to, you know, come up to his level and deliver.
Every time you start talking, I almost fall. Will you die?
Will you stop?
Just don't say nothing else to me.
You about to make me fall, Ray.
Just hold still and don't say nothing.
Since Eddie succeeded with Rick Baker, he doesn't stand for anything less than being perfect, seamless. So that makes it hard. It takes time. It takes great skill to make them look old.
I think Life differs from the other films I did with Eddie Murphy in that in many ways it's much more difficult to do a progressive age makeup, which is, there was a lot of that involved in Life. Is very tough because it's not just creating a character. I mean, it has to, there has to be a continuity and a gradual progression with that, and those are the kind of toughest makeups to do.
We don't want them to look old like old guys. They have to look old and consistent with what they looked like when they were young, and also, since they're both comedians, they have to have the ability within this new framework to animate. So they're not like old tired guys. They're old, really feisty, you know, guys, where Eddie, you know, threatens to kick his ass and they, you know, fight each other as old guys.
I didn't want Eddie at 68 and at 90 to look handsome. Do you know what I mean? I wanted him to look like he's a guy who's been working manual labor for 30 years. He's been in the sun, his skin has been affected, you know, he's older. You know what I mean? That's what happens to everyone. We don't all age gracefully, and I wanted that, and so did Eddie and Martin. It's important to both of them that at the time at 90, they didn't look like two really cute old men. They looked like two old men that really got through the ringer.
What's challenging, I think, for Rick and for myself is that when you do these makeups, you know, because they're characters, you can go pretty much anywhere, you know, with it if it's another character. But if you're doing it, it's supposed to be an old version of you. It can't go too far away from who you are, and it can't look too far away from what you look like, you know. So it has to really look like you, you know, and it has to really sound like what you would sound like if you were that age, you know. So it is more reality-based.
Human makeups, you know, realistic age makeups and things like that are the most difficult to do. That's usually what I do on Eddie anyways. It's not like he does a lot of real fantasy things, you know. I mean, the Nutty Professor was still a very real makeup, and the stuff in Coming to America was real. But those are the toughest kind of makeups. A lot of people think to do like a bizarre alien, you know, is much more difficult, but you don't see aliens every day, you know, so you have nothing to compare it to. Yeah. But you see old people every day, you know, and it's much more difficult to fool people with that kind of makeup, a realistic makeup.
You done lost your mind, Ray. That's what you done did, Ray.
I don't care what you believe. I don't care what you believe, Ray. Because I know you got something up your sleeve.
Nigga, I'm gonna stay up arguing with you all night. You cutting into my sleeping time. Okay, kiss my good night.
Go to sleep, nigga. Yeah. I hope it's the long one.
Yeah.
Why you so concerned me go to sleep?
Good night.
I'm gonna go to sleep.
Good night, Ray.
Why don't you go to sleep? Why I can't just sit here and look at your head and wonder what you got up your sleeve?
Yeah, I got something brewing. I got a fat whooping brewing for you, Ray, if you don't stop with me.
Oh, is that right?
That's right, Ray.
All right. Sleep tight.
The application time was about 3.5 hours, depending on the day, you know, and how many interruptions there are and things like that. But it took months, many months to prepare for that 3.5 hours, because every day that he's made up, we use a new set of appliances. The rubber pieces that we put on him are used once and throw away. So if he works 20 days, we have to have 20 sets of appliances, and usually more, because if you put a piece on and you screw it up, you have to take it off and you start all over again. So there were many, many months preparing for so that we could do it in a 3.5 hours. And that's with practice. The first time, you know, it took something like 6 hours, you know.
It's really interesting to watch Martin and Eddie act when they're in the makeup, because they really encompass what the age is that they're going to. They stay in that character all the time, and every once in a while they break out, but they're such gifted performers that it just takes them over.
Sometimes you can't be too subtle because it doesn't quite transfer through the rubber. You have to exaggerate some of the moves, you know. And what's great about Eddie is he's a master at that. And when you first start putting the pieces on, you can see him looking at himself in the mirror, and he's like moving his forehead, you know, and squinting and making faces, and you can see that he's seeing what it takes to make the expressions that he wants the makeup to do. And therefore, it just works so much better. Some actors, you put it on and they're afraid to move, and they just move their mouth like this, and they don't move and it just looks like a mask, you know. It doesn't look alive, you know.
I look like one of my uncles, man. I look like my Uncle Leroy a little bit when I'm in my 60s. Yeah, you know, and when I did the Nutty Professor, I would look, when they made me into the old lady, I looked kind of like my grandma Rosie, you know. So you trip off a little bit, yeah.
We on deck. You like baseball? We on deck. On deck for what? For what? That upper room? The upper room with Jesus. You know what that is? The upper room I'm gonna be singing about? The upper room. Yeah, that's right. Tell you what, you die first, I'm gonna sing at your funeral. I'm gonna just bust up in the upper and go to the upper room. Let them shoot me. I don't give a fuck if they take me out singing that. You crazy, Ray. Yeah.
I think, unequivocally, I mean, Eddie Murphy is a prodigy. He is a genius. Really is a genius. Is a word used a lot. I don't use it a lot, but I think he's clearly he's a genius.
Besides Richard Pryor, Eddie's probably the best that ever done it. Arguably the best that ever done it. And you know, a lot of people that you know, haven't worked with him or whatever, you know, it's an honor to work with him if you ever get the chance, because you see up close just how truly talented and smart and wise in his wisdom and sharp that he is, you know. And you know, you have to kind of step back and say, wow, you know, he was born to do this.
I'm really glad to do something with Martin. Wanting to work with him. I mean, when we did Boomerang, you know, it was kind of, you know, like an ensemble piece, you know, and this is really me and him. And just being able to work with a comic actor as gifted as him, it's been a lot of fun for me, and taking a lot of weight off my shoulders, you know.
I always thought that because Eddie and Martin are such incredible geniuses at comedy, which I knew they were, and I knew that they were really fantastic actors as their own performers, I always wondered how they'd act together. And I always had a feeling that because I kind of knew they were friends and they, you know, had worked together, it would kind of click, but I never dreamed it would click the way it's happened now. They've both been so completely unselfish to each other, and giving each other lines and letting the other guy have the laugh and playing the straight man and this and that, I mean, I really, you know, I always, in my heart, hopefully when I'm making a film, really think it's the best film that's ever been made, you know, and I have to feel that way because I really do believe that. I really believe that we're making a complete masterpiece. I believe that it's going to be a complete comic masterpiece with a real lot of surprises to it. I mean, that's my enthusiasm on the project.
I'm glad to know what my distinction is.
Smallest feet in journalism.
Bobby, anytime you're ready, you have to see.
All right. Eddie, I knew you'd start. Martin, you're not in on this joke, but every
Okay.
time I talk to Eddie, he always says...
She has the smallest feet in journalism. You can't see it, but her feet are a little tiny little green pump.
And see, he wouldn't know except he used to sell shoes. Did you know that, Martin?
I know now.
Yeah.
You didn't know I used to sell shoes?
Nah.
I used to sell shoes, Chandler Shoes in Roosevelt Field.
Yeah.
Might have sold you a pair, ma'am. The woman said, I thought I knew him.
Did you ever do a stand-up routine about shoes?
Not
selling
till just
shoes?
a few seconds ago.
Oh, this is it.
That was it.
Well, congratulations to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On this movie, Life. And you are lifers, 40 years in the slammer. Am I talking the lingo? Am I getting close?
Yeah, that's it. Life,
Life
40
in the
years
slammer.
slammer. I know.
Yeah.
I understood all of that.
The two of you have such escapades on screen, but when you were making it, Martin, tell me the funniest day that you had on the set with Eddie.
That's hard to say, the funniest days, because there's so many of them, you know. But, you know, even in the rainy days, we had...
The funniest day to me was when Kazu walked off the set.
Oh, you gonna tell that story, man. Oh. That was funnier than you, though.
No,
it wasn't funny to me.
That was the funniest day.
Walked off the set mad or just...
Well,
frustrated.
Oh.
Well, I'm gonna let him tell the story since he brought it up.
No, I'm not even telling.
Yeah, Eddie, you got to tell the story. You brought it up. That's
no,
the
you
rule.
know, when you do the makeup, sometimes you're sitting in a makeup chair for a long time. You know, sometimes, you know, personalities clash.
Well, we had one. Was that? It was funny. It was funny. I think Eddie broke wind too on one day.
No, that wasn't me.
That was you when I was carrying you for freedom.
Oh no.
You
Now you tried to flip it.
Now you were so happy.
Now you tried to flip it on me in the interview.
Excuse me.
I have the real footage that I could get to you, and it proved that it was Martin that did that in that scene. You tried to flip it on me in the interview to make like I didn't. You tried to flip it for the folks at home. You tried to flip it for the folks at home.
I love Eddie, but we was doing the scene, and Eddie just boom, let it go.
That's not true.
And there was the scene where we go to freedom. And
Right.
I think emotionally he was so happy.
I think he's a method actor. You know. He's so emotional.
We were happy about the freedom, so we had to let it go.
Method actor all the time. It's method.
That's right. That's method.
Now, okay, now I have a vision. The two of you are in makeup, and you're getting made in from a handsome young dudes into handsome old dudes. Now, are you both in the same makeup room or different makeup rooms?
It's different makeup rooms.
All right. Then you see one another with the makeup, and you think, one says, you look better than me, no, and you have an argument. Am I right?
No, not at all. You look
No?
at, because those guys that do the makeup art, those guys are really artists. You know, like Rick Baker and Kazu, those guys. When I saw Martin's makeup, you know, it was like, you're looking at a piece of art, you know. It's like, wow. You know, David Anderson, the guy who does my makeup with Rick, those guys, they won Oscars, you know. So I'm sure when you look at the makeup, I mean, I know what Martin looks like, so when I can, and I know what I just went through, so I'm looking at it even deeper, because I'm like, wow, I'm like, does my stuff, wow, if my stuff looks as good as that, we're in good shape, you know. Yeah,
So you were pleased with the way you
totally,
looked?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think you guys have got a hit. Lots
Thank
of
you.
laughs, lots of fun.
Thank you very much.
And
Doesn't Martin look a little like Grady when he's old from Sanford? Just a little.
But hey, Grady was smooth. He
Yeah,
came in
but
there,
look
you
a
know.
little like it.
Hey, but you know, Claude got some calls. I heard he got mail already.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was smooth. Well, he had all his teeth together. Grady had one of the governors missing.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Tony's going to throw me out of here. So until next time, stay well, have fun.
Thank you.
God bless.
God bless you, too.